I shoot a lot of my photography from a tripod, and I've also used an L bracket for years. I just love the practicality of them. But since owning the A7 IV and the A7C with those flippy screens, I found it more and more tricky because that flippy screen and the L bracket don't work well together. So I decided to buy every single L bracket I could find to see which one works and which one doesn't. And this video isn't sponsored by anyone. I bought all of these myself so I can give you a really honest review. All of the gear reviews I've seen on this rotating collar have been overly optimistic, and they haven't pointed out one major flaw which I think will really put you off from buying this. And let's be honest, a lot of product reviews here on YouTube do have a subconscious bias, leaning heavily towards the positives of a product without mentioning the negatives. This rotating collar bracket is such a good concept. Basically, it takes the bottom plate from a standard L bracket, then attaches it to this ring on the front. And then this bit sits on the tripod. This was originally designed by a company called Silence Corner, and they have the product called the A7iv S and then a few other sizes as well. This was promptly ripped off by a few other companies, but those other companies did add a few different features. One of them being the lens release button. The A7iv S covers this up, and from a few comments on a previous video that I did, a lot of you were saying that it was hard to get to that lens release button. Now, SmallRig have added a button into the ring so you don't have to worry about access to the lens release button. So let's add it to the camera and see how it actually works. You have to take the lens off to attach this one, and it sits over the lens mounting point. The one thing I like about the SmallRig products is they tend to have the tools magnetically attached to the bottom of the brackets. With the rotating collar, you undo the knob, and this rotates through 90 degrees, but it doesn't go through 180 degrees like on the A7iv. So that original design enabled you to be able to mount the camera from above, whereas this one enables you to mount it in that vertical position and then the horizontal position, but nothing more than those 2 points. The A7iv from Silence Corner does have a peak design mount on the back point, so you can use it with a capture clip. Whereas with the SmallRig one, you would have to mount a SmallRig plate on the bottom if you do use that capture clip. The great thing with this design is that it rotates around the lens, so you can quickly see the difference between a vertical and a horizontal framing with the camera pivoting through the axis of that lens. Now, there doesn't seem to be any flex whatsoever in the collar, but it'd be interesting to see how it would last after quite a few different rotations through the years. It does feel quite small on the camera, although this foot does stick out quite a bit. And this is because when you rotate it to that vertical position, they don't want the bottom of the camera to hit the top of the tripod. Now, I was really hoping that this rotating collar was a solution to the L bracket flippy screen problem, but there is one major flaw with this bracket, and that's lens compatibility. The inner diameter of this ring is advertised as 63 millimeters. I measured the back of it at 65 millimeters and the front of it at 67 millimeters. So it's around about 2.5 inches. Now, this fits a lot of smaller lenses, but when it comes to bigger lenses like the Tamron 50-400, it's not compatible. So if I take the 50-400 and I try and attach it, it won't go in. And it's due to this USB-C port being too wide for the rotating collar. And the only true way you could find out what was compatible with this bracket is to have all of the lenses that are available for this camera and test each and every one of them. On the SmallRig website, they do say that the Tamron 20-40mm, the 28-75mm, as well as the 35-150mm are not compatible, as well as the Sony 24mm and 40mm f2.8 lenses. When I looked on the A7iv website, they said that the A7iv S is compatible with the 35-150mm from Tamron, but because of the USB-C port on the lens, the bracket needs to be close to the camera, which will reduce the space of the lens release button. So I'm guessing with the A7iv, with these bigger lenses, you'll have to push it right back, and then you'll really struggle to get to that lens release button. Now, another lens that's incompatible with this rotating collar is the tilt shift lens. So if you have one of those, this won't work with that lens. I've also found that if you use extension tubes, these don't fit in. I think these little knobs on the side don't fit properly within that bracket. Also, if you use Canon lenses with your Sony cameras and you use the Sigma MC11, this doesn't fit in either. And I'm guessing the Metabones adapter would be a problem as well. Basically, any adapter with any buttons that stick out or any USB-C ports or anything like that will get in the way of the collar. It just won't fit. Now, if Silence Corner were to bring out an updated version with the lens release button built into that ring, and with the assurance that that ring would fit all of the lenses that I could possibly buy for that camera system, then I'd jump at the chance of owning that version. However, with all of the lens incompatibility issues, this is a major problem with this rotating collar. Imagine getting totally used to this system and really enjoying using the product, and then you buy a new lens and find out that that lens is incompatible with that bracket. This would be so frustrating. And this is why I can't recommend this bracket, and I'll be sending this one back. Next, I have the folding L bracket from SmallRig. This piece up the side folds away when you're not using it. And then when you want to put the camera in that vertical position, you bring it out and it attaches to the tripod on this vertical point. With this hinge design, this did make me think that this could be a potential weak point. But when it locks in place, it does seem really solid. Again, only time will tell as to whether this will come loose or not. There's no way of tightening the hinge up either. So if that hinge does come loose, then that's it for this bracket. Now, when you are shooting horizontally, this L piece does need to be folded away because that's where you've got your Arca Swiss mounting point for your tripod. Now, it does have mounting threads on the bottom, but if you mounted any kind of plate to this, you wouldn't be able to fold this away. And for me, I use the capture clip on my rucksack, and I need that quick release plate on the bottom to mount it to that capture clip, so this would be a problem. So these mounting threads on the bottom do seem to be a bit of an afterthought. And because of this, I wouldn't recommend this bracket. If you do use an Arca Swiss compatible tripod and you don't use any other quick release plates, this folding bracket does work quite well. The next L bracket I've got is from a company called Three-Legged Thing, and this is the Ellie Short PD. And the PD stands for Peak Design, and that's because they've got a quick release Peak Design bracket built into the bottom of this plate. So this fits on the capture clip on the rucksack bracket and also the Peak Design tripod. Now, this is a universal L bracket that fits lots of different cameras. The problem with this is this flippy screen. You do have a cutout for that flippy screen, but again, you have the same problems when you flip it out. You can't turn that screen whatsoever. In theory, you could get the Allen key out, undo these two, and turn this bit so it's facing completely down, but this seems like it would be a little bit of a hassle. Now, if you use a camera that doesn't have a flippy screen and you use the capture clip on your rucksack, I'd really recommend this. That built-in plate is fantastic and it works really well as an L bracket. Also, being universal, if you upgrade your camera, you don't necessarily have to change that L bracket, and this will fit most cameras that are out there. The one thing I've found over the years in buying L brackets is that if you get the ones that are designed for specific cameras, once you sell those cameras, if you don't sell the L bracket with the camera, you're stuck with L brackets that you can't use. I've got this one for the A7 III and this one for the RX10 Mark III that I no longer have and I no longer use. Next, I have this bracket from Ulanzi, and it's designed by Falcam. It has a quick release plate built into the bottom and in the side, and it uses that Falcam F38 and F22 system. This is the most compact of all of the L brackets that I've got, and it doesn't get in the way of that flippy screen whatsoever. Now, if you haven't heard of the F38 system, it's very much like the Arca Swiss system, but it clicks in really quickly. So you've got a release button, but as it clicks in, it locks tight and holds the camera nice and steady. It's almost like an update to the Arca Swiss system. This bracket is compatible with Arca Swiss, but it's not compatible with the capture clip from Peak Design. It does slot into the capture clip, but it doesn't click in place. So it's not secure, and I don't think it's safe. So if you do use the capture clip from Peak Design, you'd either have to put the Peak Design quick release plate on the bottom using one of these threads, or update that backpack clip with the F38 version. With this bracket on the bottom, it actually only uses this last bit because it is an F22 and an F38 system. I actually wish this quick release plate on the bottom was just F38. That would be so much better with this mount. Now, you might be thinking that it's pretty bare on the side and you're wondering where the L bracket side to this is. But actually at the bottom here, This is the F38 system, so you can mount it on this corner piece. Again, this is also compatible with an Arca Swiss tripod. When you do mount it in the vertical position, it does feel like it's perched on the corner a little bit, but I've used it for quite a while and it does seem quite solid. It also has a few mounting options with these 3/4 20 threads, as well as a cold shoe mount at the top. Now, I really like the Falcam F38 and F22 system, but the accessories do seem a bit expensive. A magic arm with an F22 mount either side, I think is about £79, which is more expensive than this bracket. So because of these prices, a lot of people will be dissuaded from buying into this system. Now, this last one is the cobbled together version that I made to get around the flippy screen problem. It's basically a half cage from SmallRig with a Peak Design capture clip plate on the side. This works really well and it doesn't really get in the way of the flippy screen at all. And I can mount it in that vertical position and that horizontal position. It's not the prettiest rig and it does make the camera feel a lot more bulky, but it's practical and it does the job. And that's the thing when it comes to these L brackets. If it does the job and it does the job well, and it means that you can be more efficient in your photography, then it's working. And from having them and using them all, the rotating collar and the folding bracket don't do this well at all. And that's the thing you've got to look at with all of these different accessories. Does it do the job that it's designed for, and does it do the job well? Some reviews don't really give the full picture, and that's what I'm trying to do today. Now, if you like the look of this cobbled rig I put together myself and see how it performs, click on this video next. But if you want to get perfect exposures every time, click on this video. I'll see you next time.